Welcome back everyone to the theCUBE Trailblazers series, Crypto Trailblazers. We are here in Palo Alto in the CUBE studios. I'm John Furrier, host of theCUBE. Amanda Terry's here. She is the co-founder and CEO of Metagood. Amanda, thanks for coming on theCUBE. Appreciate it.
Thank you, thanks for having me.
You got a lot going on, love your company. I want to get into Metagood and some of the things you're doing. Bill Ty is involved, friend of theCUBE, been involved in day one. You run a fund with him. A lot of smart people gathered around what you've been building, and it's got great momentum. So first of all, congratulations. You're definitely a crypto trailblazer. Appreciate you coming in. And you also got some really good views between Bitcoin, Ethereum, how that's all shaping out, obviously for good with artists. So it's a cultural tech story going on here.
Yes.
Explain what you guys are doing. Set the table, set some context. What is Metagood? What do you guys do?
Sure, so Metagood is one of the leading pioneering companies in the Ordinal space. Ordinals is a protocol that was developed 2 years ago to put data and assets directly on the Bitcoin L1. So that wasn't possible before. We launched an NFT collection called On-Chain Monkey. We did that in 2021 before the protocol was available, so that was actually done in a single Ethereum transaction, which was technically very historic at the time. Then when the protocol came out, we moved all of those monkeys onto Bitcoin. So it's the first 10,000 NFTs inscribed on Bitcoin, which also has historic provenance. I'm very lucky to have co-founded the company with Bill Tai, who's our chairman. Obviously, Bill's been in crypto since 2010. And Danny Yang, who founded the Stanford Bitcoin Meetup just a few blocks from here, and MyCoin, which is the largest cryptocurrency exchange operating in Taiwan. It's been operating for over a decade.
Yeah, so a lot of OGs, but also the technical innovation you mentioned, the on-chain with Bitcoin. I think that's kind of historic. Obviously, Bitcoin has risen. We've seen the prices. They still, they move around. Oh, Bitcoin's down. Come on, it's up. Just the overall growth. I mean, look at the growth rate. It's about 45% return over the life of every year.
I think it's still the 9th largest asset in the world, and probably top performing over a long period.
And I'm in the school of that's still a small percentage of store of value, so I come from that school, but relative to the shift, Bitcoin clearly winning, people getting behind it, the US government. Talk about that why that's important, the Bitcoin piece of it for the NFTs and the assets, because this is a huge thing, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, we have a lot of macro tailwinds in the Bitcoin and the crypto space generally, right? I mean, Texas just passed crypto strategic bill. I know that there's legislation in over 20 states right now that's being considered. Countries are also considering it. On Friday at the White House, there was a lot of talk about also developing some type of crypto strategic reserve. So really the sentiment has changed a lot in the new administration, and I think that's a lot of tailwinds generally for the crypto space. Bitcoin specifically, obviously, it's the largest layer one, most decentralized. And Bitcoin's here to stay. So what we're doing is putting art onto Bitcoin, which is a really new thing. I mean, as I said, this protocol is only 2 years old. Was developed by Casey Rodarmore, and we've done a lot not only for On-Chain Monkey, but really to bring other artists in the space. So we launched a collection also called OCM Dimensions, which was the first 3D generative interactive art on Bitcoin, and that code base is open source, and actually hundreds of artists have used that code base to put their art on Bitcoin. So it's kind of, we feel like it's very early innings, like many people are still being educated, even in the NFT space. We were just at NFT Paris. A lot of people know about Ethereum, but they're still learning about, well, what's the significance of NFTs on Bitcoin? And the real difference is, on Ethereum, you own a digital certificate, which is pointing to an off-file storage system. So if someone doesn't pay their AWS bills or the founder decides to leave the project, you don't actually own the art. The art's not on-chain. What's really amazing and has incredible provenance for Bitcoin is with Ordinals, they're immutable. They're on-chain. And they're going to outlive all of us. So I always think about it for kind of a layperson's definition is, think of the Lascaux cave paintings in France, right? They all outlived the cave people that painted them. Very similar to Ordinals. And these on-chain monkeys, they are going to outlive all of us.
It's interesting, Saylor's always saying store of value. He actually uses art as an example. The old school art is not a good way to store value, which is actually the art world has more value store in it than the entire Bitcoin number. So just that in and of itself means that Bitcoin will probably double and triple if you take that philosophy, but you're doing both. You got art storing on the store. So it's a double bottom line.
Yeah, because literally, I mean, when you look at the Ordinals protocol, they're inscribed on Satoshis, which is 1/100 millionth of a Bitcoin. It's literally the smallest unit of Bitcoin. So when you're stacking sats, you're actually, yes, you have the store value going up, right, which is Bitcoin, and also the art on Bitcoin. And with these extremely bullish things happening in the market right now, we feel there's going to be a lot of wealth created for crypto whales. And what better way for these people that are already digitally savvy and digitally native to then want to show their wealth with digital assets like Ordinals.
Yeah, and it's just one use case. As more assets will come on board, so it's a sign, a template, if you will, for other things. I have to ask you, because you have such a great team, and obviously the technical innovation is immutable. I mean, no one wants a pointer to a database.
Exactly
basically what it is.
Yes.
So okay, that's a non-starter. For all the reasons you mentioned, and the whole reason to have store value is to not have things cause disruption, whether it's a fire for your real art hanging on the wall or whatever. I mean, these things happen.
Right.
Hurricanes happen, floods, fires. So when you look at the digital currency, this is going to be big. So that's a no-brainer. Anyone who's in the industry knows that there'll be a digital currency. There has to be. It's evolution.
Right.
It's just.
I mean, Bitcoin is the biggest chain.
Biggest chain. And it's
most decentralized.
Centralized. All the benefits are there. As the OGs, as Bill and your team, you guys sit around the table and talk, or the virtual Telegram table, if you will, or messaging or Signal. What are some of the conversations you're having? Because as you mentioned, you went to Paris, and the world is moving fast. People are coming on board. There's an in-migration of new talent, new buyers, new artists, new asset creators. What's that like right now? What's the sentiment? Where's the progress? Could you scope kind of the progress bar, the sentiment, the mindset? What are some of the market conditions right now?
Sure. I mean, what's so incredible is, like I said, this protocol just launched 2 years ago, right? And so, and obviously you mentioned Paris. I mean, 2 years ago, I spoke on the only panel at NFT Paris on Ordinals. It was myself and 2 artists and kind of NFT influencer. Fast forward this year, and there was over 50 builders, so people building Bitcoin infrastructure, artists, people in the Ordinal space who spoke at NFT Paris. So just 1 year. I mean, even speaking, a couple years ago at Consensus CoinDesk, and I think the title was like, "Can Bitcoin be anything but a store of value?" And here, now you see this kind of orange wave happening in the space where people are learning about Ordinals, excited about it, excited to put art and look at Ordinals as really a growth area within the Bitcoin space.
I mean, take a minute to explain Ordinals and the Ordinal protocol and why that's important. You mentioned the Satoshi blockchain piece of it. Explain Ordinals, what it means in crypto.
Yeah, so Ordinals is you're inscribing data, so it can be music, art, any type of data directly onto a Satoshi, which is 1/100 millionth of a Bitcoin. So it's the smallest unit of Bitcoin possible. And there are rare sats, so there's some interesting stuff that happens there. For example, our OCM Genesis collection are all on block 9 450x sats, which is actually the first block of Bitcoin mined by Satoshi given to Hal Finney. So very historic, very rare, and so there's
so it's
rarity.
Like a digital museum.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's kind of rarity to the sats, which connotate value, and because there's limited block space. I mean, it is expensive to inscribe art on Bitcoin, and so we were very fortunate to be early pioneers in the space, and then also help other artists also on board as well. So there's actually an artist we just brought on, Michael Hafka. He's based out of Brooklyn. His works are in the Met, the MoMA, the British Museum. He just changed his profile pic, on his socials to an on-chain monkey, and he's doing some derivative works of on-chain monkey on Bitcoin as well. So we're kind of, not just, and we've created this incredible community that's very passionate about art on Bitcoin, and obviously we kind of started with some of the early technologists, but then now we're kind of bringing artists and collectors into the space.
So you got great traction with the creators.
Yes.
artists.
Yes.
So there, you can almost say, okay, this is so good, it's going to attract more people creating assets, artists to start, and others potentially. What's the scalability? Is there challenges there? You mentioned rarity on the Bitcoin. Bitcoin, it's, someone might say, well, isn't Bitcoin like 100,000 a Bitcoin? So like you start to get into the math, and you
Yes.
go, is there a cap? Does it scale? What are some of the scalability challenges?
I think some of the scale is really just that there is limited block space, so it can get very expensive to inscribe large files on Bitcoin, which is why, the things that are happening now, it will only get more expensive over time to inscribe. And I think it's also still very early, like generally, just the infrastructure. There's a handful of wallets to even do this. You don't use a MetaMask wallet, you use other wallets that are specific to Bitcoin. There's a handful of marketplaces. So kind of a lot of the things that happen for Ethereum NFTs are still in the very early innings and sort of infrastructure to enable people to easily trade and buy and even show in the best form their ordinals.
It's interesting. The theory kicks in. You're like, okay, so that means it's like beachfront property. If there's any kind of contention, that also is a valuation opportunity, potentially.
Oh yeah, no, we wrote about this in a Medium post that, these sats, right? Like the Block 9 450X sats are like the Palo Alto, kind of like University Avenue, or, the Central Park of New York. There is literally, it's digital real estate, right? And they're limited block space, and there are some that are gonna be more valued than others. And, I just, again, feel very fortunate to work with Danny. Has a PhD in computer science from Stanford, so he knows how to find those rare sats and get our art on there, so that we are literally creating like the highest value digital assets on Bitcoin.
Yeah, market forces and free markets are a beautiful thing when you have something as simple as Bitcoin at layer one, because it is what it is. It's so transparent.
Yes.
So I think that'll shake itself out.
And I mean, you kind of look as like, over time, as wealth is created, like what do people like to invest in as a store of value that goes up is art, right? And so, as I mentioned before, like you talk about Michael Saylor. We haven't yet orange pilled him, even though Bill and I have met with him. He hasn't yet bought.
Oh, he's got to get on.
He hasn't yet bought On-Chain Monkey.
I mean, it's right. I mean, he talks about art, and he should get on board. Michael, if you're watching, you got to get on board. Because it's a double bottom line for you to use that word.
Exactly.
Because he talks about art in a pejorative way, saying art is an old store of value, and he's not wrong, by the way. Art can store of value, but someone's house could burn down.
If you're making your wealth in digital assets, why wouldn't you want to then store it on digital assets? I will say, there's actually one of our investors is Simon Garavec, who is the CEO of MetaPlanet, who's been following the playbook in Japan of MicroStrategy, and he does have a number of monkeys and is an investor. So he's kind of the MicroStrategy of Japan, and he's a big On-Chain Monkey fan.
Yeah, and what's great about the culture is that, I mean, it's obviously hardcore. I mean, I actually like Michael's views because I think he's right. There's also other factors. I talked to a bunch of other folks as well that kind of have a similar, but there's other conditions. Like if you look at finance, for instance, you have debt, you have housing. So there's all kinds of financial instruments that's kind of intermingled. But you go to the chain, it's as clean as you can be. It's transparent. So I think the culture, we're already in it. The thing we're watching on theCUBE is as this goes mainstream, store of value will be it will be a feature of life, right? So social change, commerce, as people start thinking about money in their life, then if you flip it around, you say, okay, money is just a scoreboard for success or an enabler for change. So you start to get into things like social freedom, where Bitcoin is literally helping people get confidence to maybe potentially get dictators out of the office. So like Bitcoin is very efficient.
Yes.
And so that culture is there. So what does that speak to your culture? If you had to describe the culture of artists that are coming together, I'm sure they're early adopters. What's it like? What's the mindset of the culture in your world?
Yeah, I mean, I love that question. Definitely early adopters from a technology standpoint, big believers in the power of Bitcoin and kind of the freedom of decentralization and self-custody of your assets. As our collection, when we launched it, we launched with a series of values, which if you go in and you look at our Twitter or you look at our Discord, people are always typing !RISE, arise, which stands for respect, treat with respect, integrity, operate with the highest ethical standards, sustainability, we build for the future and enrichment. We want to create wealth for our community so they can do good in the world. And we've done a number of things on a social impact side as well. So we've used some of our secondary trading revenues and primary revenues from the sales of our NFTs to do things like we funded the evacuation of Sharbat Gula. She was the woman on the face of Nat Geo with the piercing green eyes. When the Taliban were entering Afghanistan, she reached out to one of our advisors who used to be a former Nat Geo photographer and said, you know, my life and my family's lives are in danger. Is there anything you do to help us? And so we literally funded the mission. She ended up in Italy back in a couple years ago, but that was something we did. You know, we also, anyways, we've done a lot. We've done a lot in coral reef restoration. We recently donated to a professor that's kind of doing citizen reef research in the Philippines. So
one of the things that we're seeing.
So Web3 can kind of bring communities together to do good as well.
Well, I mean, I think Web3, and I think just if you look at what's going on with AI, and now AI has got, I mean, AI, if you look at, we talked about NVIDIA before we came on. NVIDIA did gaming, they did crypto, and then they did AI, but they're still doing all three, right? So you see the tech culture is for the first time in my life, I've ever seen this happen where, you know, you got tech, money, and now impact, or I won't say philanthropy, but impact, social, connecting at a nexus. It used to be in undergraduate computer science or business school, it's like, hey, make a lot of money, get rich, and then do good. Now it's all in parallel. It's all kind of sidecar. You can do tech, you can go make money and provide impact. And I think this is a generational standard that's evolving very fast, not just in Web3. They're an early indicator, I think, that's been happening for sure because of the mindset, but I think generally the culture.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of the holders of On-Chain Monkey, it's almost like a nationless state, right? We're all bound together by this art that you own that some people use as their profile pic on their socials, right? And you look at like, what are you wearing today, or what watch, or you know, what social signals are you giving in the physical world, right? You can also be doing the digital world. So like my Twitter PFP profile pic is my monkey, right? And what does that stand for? It stands for that I believe in technical innovation, I believe in Bitcoin, I believe in art. And I also believe in the ability for a company to make positive world impact, which is what we're doing.
Well, man, I really appreciate you coming. You're certainly a trailblazer, and on that point, you know, a lot of people are looking for the future of democracy, and I think if they just look at what's happening here, it's there. It's templates.
Yes.
I mean, they're looking for the old answer retrofitted when the new answers, the new communities that are developing that actually have muscle, tech, finance, and mindset of impact. That's the new culture.
Yeah, no, we were super fortunate to be named Fast Company's 20 best world change ideas for impact investing for some of that impact work we've done. But yeah, I mean, I always lead with really the technical innovation, the art, and as you said, I think we're all here to try to make a positive impact in the world.
Congratulations, love your mission, Metagood. It's in the name.
It's in the name.
Metagreat next. That's the next company.
Yep, we got to get Sailor on board. That's my next thing. We're going to work on that.
We'll personally target him. Okay. Sailor, we're going to get you on board. Thanks for coming in. He's a trailblazer too. He should be on the program.
Yes, for sure.
We are the Crypto Trailblazers series here, theCUBE in Palo Alto in partnership with the NYC Wired Community, a new open source, open community revolving around content, good people, and of course, causing change and making money and creating tech. We're all for that too. I'm John Furrier, your host of theCUBE. Thanks for watching.